Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Now look, today's video is going to be based on something that I get asked most often. I see most often in card making forums, on Facebook, online, about when you watch all these videos, you get all these ideas, you get super duper inspired, there's all these fabulous things. You feel like you're ready to take on the world with all these ideas that you have in your head, and then the next day or a week later you come down to sit at your craft space and you think, now I don't remember what I wanted to do. Or I know what I wanted to do and I know I watched the video, but I definitely can't remember how I got there or what I should be doing first. Well, this is my biggest tip. Now, I was watching Lindsay the Frugal Crafter the other day. She had this video where she did like a mixed media. She started off with a stencil, then she added lots of random colors, and then she did stamping over top, and she actually ended up cutting all of this apart. But this video inspired me, and this is what you need to do. You need to watch the video and then stop. Stop watching all the other videos. Stop going on to more beautiful, brilliant ideas. Just make that one video. So sometimes it might mean saving the video for later. It might mean keeping the tab open in your computer. And then when you come to craft, you watch the video, you get the ideas, and then you take that inspiration and go straight to. Because I know with how busy life is, I tend to get super jumbled with the ideas and thoughts in my mind. So when I've got them, I either jot them down in a little notepad beside my bed. I will sometimes draw myself pictures of what I think I'm meaning. You know, like if I see something in a magazine and I think, oh, that would look really good on a card front, I get out my phone or I get a little paper pad and I draw a little sketch then and there of exactly what I think. And sometimes I tuck it into my wallet or I tuck it into my pocket and then I pop it on my craft space. So next time I come to sit down, that is exactly what I'm going to do. So for this one, Lindsay used a stencil. I don't have a stencil, so I'm going to use some masking magic strips. You could just cut some masking tape, or you could use some low-tack tape, or you could use washi tape that you put on your clothes first to make sure it hasn't got too much stick. Now again, taking inspiration from Lindsay, she did lots of random colors. And by random, I don't mean random, I just mean, you know, wasn't all colors that were beside each other on the color wheel. For example, she's used purples and pinks and greens, which if we mix them together would create mud. But, you know, with these oxides as well and the blending, we're able to get away with it a little bit. So for example, like if I put the orange and the green together here, that would sometimes make mud, but with a little bit of light blending and, you know, somewhat planning, I mean, not really. But here I'm putting the orange and the green next together, and then I just go really lightly. I don't try and overlap them too much at all. I basically have them meet between the two colors, but no overlapping. And so here I have a completely sort of non-planned out, you know, colors wise background, but I still have all my little 6 spaces. Now, of course, Lindsay had more with her stencil, but things don't have to be the same as the inspiration that you get. They can be different and just inspired by. You can copy exactly. I don't mind what you get from my videos, whether it be one little, you know, handy dandy tip that you take away and nothing else in the video sparks it for you, that's fine. If you want to copy the card from woe to go, that is also fine. I'm here for all of it, and that is what my channel is about. Now this one here is Sending Sunshine. Lindsay used some stamps to create background texture in hers, and so I'm going to take the same colors. Now this is the Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide, and I must admit I stamped this down. I can see it a little bit. It's not super bright. And I also didn't know what I was putting on top of this at the moment. It came to me a little bit later when I was flicking through some of my supplies, and often I will store extra things in the back of my die cutting images, and that can sometimes be the difference between me using that die set and not using that die set. Because if an image is already pre-cut, I don't have to do the die cutting. Sometimes that just means I can grab and go. Now this one here from Holtz. This is called Flower Shop, and I absolutely love this. The images in here are stunning. I've done lots of videos using this stamp set as well, mainly because when I purchase a stamp set, I want to make the most out of, having to pay for that and investing in my purchase. Now, I'm actually going to use the little bit of script down the bottom of this one. Again, Lindsay used some script on hers, and again, we don't have the same stamps, but that's neither here nor there. This one is what I have. I'm using some Hickory Smoke Grey ink. Now, about this time, I was thinking, I like it, but I'm just not getting enough contrast. I'm not getting enough of the background images come through. So we're going to step it up a notch. This is the Autumn Silhouettes from Gina K, and I'm trying something else. I'm trying some dye ink. This is the Warm Cocoa from Gina K. It's quite dark, and I'm going to use this and stamp out some of those sort of skeleton leaves they look like to me. And at the first, I was like, I think I should do second generation stamping. I don't want to ruin it at this point, but actually I went super brave and just thought, Lindsay goes with the flow, and I can do this too for this project. And so I just stamped full image, full ink, and then I also got back out that text one from the Tim Holtz Flower Shop stamp set, and I'm going to do the same thing. I come back in and I go full strength with the same ink. So then this one here is the Postage Collage stencils from Waffle Flower. This is one that was sitting at the front of my set, and I am ashamed to say I purchased this and haven't used it yet. And that's not usually how things go in my craft space, so I am going to use this today, albeit not how it's meant to be used, but the rules are meant to be broken in this case. And so I'm just going to use this for some great texture, because again, this is what Lindsay was doing, and she used different tools and she used different mediums and all those things, but we're taking inspiration. I always like to have a little bit of a shine, a little bit of movement in my cards. So these are the Simon Hurley Solar Pastes. Now, I haven't pulled these out in a while, and there actually is a gold color, which is the first one I showed you, but this is technically the yellow color. It's called Slippery When Wet, and I have always loved this one best for gold. It is a very warm gold to me, and I'm going to use a little makeup sponge just to put this through that collage stencil. Now, you might have a stencil that's going to work, just a regular stencil. Use what you have. Have a look through your stash. I'm just going for, just any sort of shape. This one is circles, some dots. I'm going to use some stripes, all good things that were in the stencil, but it did remind me that I had it, and actually I didn't even put this one away after I washed it and put it back in its package. I've left it out on my desk because I need to use this. I love this. I love the idea of it. I don't have any of the coordinating dies or stencils or stamps or anything that go with it, but I feel like we can make something work. Surely I bought this for a reason. And so then I use some white pigment ink, some Hero Arts unicorn ink, and I also use the same stencil to go through a little bit. So we've created a gorgeous background here. Now let's finish this off. Whilst I have out the solar paste, I'm actually going to take this one. Again, this is called Slippery When Wet, and this is the gold that I like. Taking off the goobies around the top, and then I'm going to use a palette knife to spread out some onto just a scrap piece of white cardstock. This spreads out beautifully. I'm getting a roughly even layer of it, which is not that hard to do, but I do want it to be kind of thin. I'm absolutely going to be impatient and dry this with my heat gun. Now, one cool thing, you may love it, you may not. I wanted to get some texture in this, so I went pretty close with my heat gun and tried on purpose to get some bubbles. If you don't want the bubbles, then move your heat gun a little bit further away and it won't bubble up. There is a fine line between getting bubbles and you don't want to burn anything. So, don't go too close for too long. But you can see that I am getting some good texture through there. This is when I decided I love that gorgeous shine. I think it's going to add nicely to the card. And I knew I wanted to do some sort of vase here with some flowers. Again, we have well and truly veered away from what Lindsay was originally doing, but that's okay. She gave us the starting inspiration. And I'm going to use this one. This is the Plants and Vases from Altenew, and this is actually a gorgeous die set. Boy, have I used this one. And I actually used this, this vase set, I have turned this upside down into a cake holder, a birthday cake holder, all sorts of things, which are so, so helpful. I have used Perfect Pearls on these. I have a whole lot of them in the back there, as you can see, but I'm going to stick with the white one I like there. I quite like this blue, and I feel like I could have used used it now that I'm editing and voicing it over, but at the time I kind of knew what I wanted and I just wanted this gold. So, either would be fine. So I run that through my die cutting machine and look at the texture on here. Look, I could move this around forever. This really does catch my eye, and I love that it's sort of, doesn't take over from the background. It is the focal point, and it's going to be more so in a second. I'm going to run this through with a plain white one, and we're going to create a little bit of border between the background and the vase because it does sink in a little bit. It's similar colors. Then I also have this Christmas branch die here from scrapbook.com. This is, again, one of my most used branch dies. And as I said, there were dies already cut in the back of both of these packages, and that is the reason why I chose them. Now, I know that just seems like a little bit silly, but actually, sometimes it's the difference between, just what I feel like, whether I feel like going all out and getting out all the supplies. I'd already gotten out quite a few supplies for the beginning of this card, and so, towards the end, we were going with what was there. I've taken off those gorgeous strips of masking magic, and this is looking pretty good. I love all those separate little boxes. We're going to make this into a nice cohesive image by adding that focal point. I have this one from Pink Fresh Studios, the happy birthday. I just love that little saying that says, birthdays look good on you. I've been using this quite a bit recently, and I just think it's a little bit different from happy birthday, but still a gorgeous birthday sentiment that's really going to work for lots of people. Now, I'm going to stamp this in the same warm cocoa ink that I used for the background, and then use my Spellbinders trimmer to trim out a couple of these. I will put another one in the back of the packaging just in case I want to use this next time as well. And then I will trim that down a little bit. Here's how we're going to separate the vase from the background. I'm actually going to use that white one as a drop shadow. So I'm just going to shift it off to the left a little bit, and that will just give the vase a little bit more dimension. Pop some foam tape behind it and then attach all of these extra little plain white die cuts. Cut off the extra little bits and pieces so we don't have too much bulk down the bottom, but how stunning is that? And that was fast to put together. This is going to go directly on the front there. I think the vase stands out nicely with that little bit of foam tape. I am going to make sure I have it centered though. And then those stark white flowers are going to match those gorgeous borders and strips that we have through the center there. So I'm pretty happy with how this looks at the moment. The only thing I really wanted to add at this point was some white splatter, and I can't help myself. I am going to do that with some gloss white spray. Now this is a spray bottle, but actually I just use this for splatter because when you put this on top of backgrounds that have water reactive ink, it stays bright white and it stays nice and white rather than changing the color of the background ink that you've popped it on. So now when I was nearly finished here, I have my little sentiment. I'm going to just cut a little fishtail into each end of this sentiment to go across, cut a tiny little piece of foam tape to go on each end of the sentiment, and then just pop liquid glue in the center because that center part will be going across the vase, and we've already put foam tape on the back of the vase so it stands up a little bit. Pop this across the center, and then when I was nearly finished, I was flicking to the inside of this and then just looking at cleaning up, and I saw one of the masking magic strips that I had used. Now, I double checked with my finger that this wasn't going to rub off or smudge or spread or anything, and I thought, waste not, want not. Let's pop this in the center of the card and, have a little something in there too. So I use some nice strong glue. I know this isn't going to go anywhere once it is stuck down nicely, and then I will put this down the edge. It is perfectly, obviously because it went on the front of the card, it's going to fit the length of the inside of the card too. Give that a second to set before I cut off the extra little edges, and then no one will know that that's actually a throwaway masking magic strip that I could have used from the front, but how gorgeous is this card? So here's my number one tip. Procrastination, don't do it. Take that one idea and just either write it down, draw it, save it, keep the tab open, and then just go to. Don't fill your head with lots and lots and lots of ideas because I know that I just forget them. I truly simply forget them. I hope that this video has been helpful to you. Let me know your tips on how you keep track of your inspiration in the comment section down below. Other than that, I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!